Hello and welcome to this 13th session wherein we are going to discuss about this high order components HOC, and we are going to build a section wrapper JSX file using which we are going to wrap all the components that we have created using this one wrapper component. Before I begin, see, if you come back here and when we refresh and when we see the console window here, see, whenever I refresh this and see the console window, we are getting one error here. It is showing us a warning that the tag dev is unrecognized in this browser. And why we are getting this is, see, if we come to our hero.jsx file in the components, in the hero.jsx file, for this animation of this ball inside this cube, we had used on motion dev and we had named it as DEV instead of DIV. So I will make this as DIV and save it, and then when I refresh the page, now see, we are not getting any error. So in hero.jsx, I have done this one change. Instead of motion.dev, I have made it motion.div. This is a self-closing tag. So let us close this, and now we are going to create a new component. I will come to this SRC folder, and in the SRC folder now right click and create a new folder and call this as HOC. HOC stands for high order components, and I will right click here and I am going to create a new file in this folder, and let us call this as section S capital WRAPPER SectionWrapper.jsx and press enter. And here now in this SectionWrapper.jsx, I want to add a boilerplate for React. So how are we going to add it? So before I execute that command, I am going to come to the extension here, and in the extension type React. And when I type React, here you see one React ES7 plus React and Redux and React native snippets. You have one component, click on install. Install this component, and once this component is installed, now come to SectionWrapper.jsx and type RIFCE and press enter. So when I press enter, immediately you can see that the boilerplate of React is added. In this SectionWrapper.jsx works similar to other components that we have created now, and only thing is, in the first line I will delete the import statement over here, and I am going to type import, and in flower brackets I am going to import motion, and I am going to import this motion from framer motion. Then with semicolon I will end it, and I will come to the next line, and in the next line I am going to import the next component. I will again add flower brackets, and I am now going to import styles, and this styles is now going to come from, I will just add from, and in inverted comma this is going to come from // styles. This is the file from which we are going to get it. I will end it with semicolon, and then again press enter and use the import, and we are going to import another component inside the flower bracket, and this is stagger container. So this stagger container, C is capital, okay, this is going to come from, and in inverted comma we are going to get it from, I will add 2 dots / to go to the root, and in this you have utils, and inside this utils I have motion.js. So from this we are getting this stagger container, and I am going to end it with semicolon. When you come to this section wrapper, inside the section wrapper, the parameter we are going to use is the component name, because we are going to apply it to different components. And another one what we need is the ID name for each component. I am now going to delete this return statement, and we are going to add one more component into this. We are going to declare one more function, and this function we are going to call it as HOC. I will declare it in capital and open close parenthesis and then space, and I will add a flower bracket, and inside this is going to return open close parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis it is going to return what is known as a motion dot section. So this is going to return motion dot section. I will close this tag, and in between this tag this is going to actually return whatever component we are going to call here, and I will add a forward slash and the right arrow, and so this is the structure that we are using here. And now we want this section wrapper to be imported and exported, and for this, if you come to your Explorer here you come to HOC, the folder that we created. Inside this, now I am going to create one more file, and I am going to call this as index.js, and in this index.js we are going to import this section wrapper. Now here I am now going to first import, I will add this flower bracket, and I am going to import the section wrapper, and the section wrapper is coming from, I am going to add inverted comma, and in the same folder this is coming from this file section wrapper, and then I will end this with semicolon, and in the next line I am going to export this section wrapper inside this flower bracket. I am going to export this section wrapper, and I am going to end this with semicolon. Okay, so we have created this index.js, and then I will close this index.js, and I will now come to our component About.jsx, and in this About.jsx now we are going to import this section wrapper. So we will import this section wrapper, and from where we are going to import this section wrapper? It is from, in inverted comma, 2 dots and forward slash, because it has to go to the root folder, and in that we are importing it from HOC, and I will end this with semicolon. And how are we going to use this? So if you scroll all the way down, here we have just put export default about, and instead of this, here what we are going to do is, instead of exporting this about directly, we are now going to call this section wrapper, and in this section wrapper we are going to give the two parameters we had declared in this. The first one is the component, that is the about, comma, and then the ID in inverted commas. I am going to give it the name about, and this I will end it with semicolon, and I am going to save this. And now as soon as we save it, see, we are not getting any display, and if I choose the inspect and if I come to console, you see a huge set of errors occurring here. So what is happening? And when we start to debug it, I will now come back to this section wrapper.jsx, and here the issue we are having is, this is not a void function, this has to return something, and inside this we are calling a function called HOC, and that function is returning something, but it is returning to HOC and not to section wrapper. So what we have to do is, outside this purple flower bracket, I will press enter and I have to add one line telling return what it should return, this HOC function, and I will close it with colon. And now if I save this and then if I refresh the page, see now everything is working fine. So we have this working, but as of now if you see nothing has changed, everything remains the same. So what would we do? Well, we have just created the section wrapper and we have wrapped this about page inside the section wrapper. But for this section wrapper, we have not defined any rules. So now whatever rules we are going to define in this section wrapper will be applied to all the components to which we are going to use the section wrapper. I am going to call from some animation components. I will press enter and I am going to call variants, and this variants inside the flower bracket I am going to call stagger controller, which we have imported here, and that I will end it with open close parenthesis because it's a function. The initial, I am going to set the initial value and this will be equal to, in inverted comma, it will be hidden. And then the next parameter I am going to set is while in view, I will choose this, and while in view I will remove this curly brackets and in inverted comma I will tell it to show. In the viewport I am going to add some parameters, and in open close flower bracket I will add one more open close flower bracket, and inside this once this animation everything should happen once, it should true, and then amount of animation time I will set it to 0.25. I will come out of both these flower brackets, and now I am going to call classes. I am going to call here is this, and these classes I want it as a code block. So I will delete this inverted comma, add flower bracket, and inside this I will use the tilde key. I am going to add dollar sign, and after the dollar sign in open close flower brackets I will call styles and dot padding, because we want padding both on x and y. And after this I will come out of this and I am going to call set a maximum width equal to 7xl. I will set mx auto, and next is I will add relative, and finally I will set its z index value to 0. So after I have applied all these parameters, and now if I save this, after saving it, if I reload this page, now you can see it is getting animated, and also you are seeing the border on the left, and the actual image is always centered. See, you are seeing it almost centered. See, it is always centered. So this overview part, it has been applied with this effect. And one last thing I want here is when I click on the about, it should go to that overview page. It's not happening. And similarly, if I click on this button, it should go to overview page, and it is not happening. I have to add this link, and this I am going to add it using a span component. So to add this, I will come inside this motion section above the component. I am going to now press tab and I am going to add span, and in between this span I will press enter and NBSP semicolon. Okay, and for this span I am going to apply a class name. I am going to call the class name for this is hash span, and then I will come out of this and I am going to set it with an ID which is equal to, in flower bracket, ID name. So this will be equal to the ID name of the component. And once I set this, I will save it now. And now if I refresh this and then if I move it down and click on this button, say it scrolls to the overview section. And similarly, if I move to the top and click on this About section, it will scroll here. Page title is still white wheat plus React. And for this, I will, in Satvik 3D profile root, I have one index.html. See, the title is still set to wheat plus React. I am going to change this title, Satvik 3D profile page, and I am going to save it. So immediately you can see now the name has changed to Satvik 3D profile page. And for the logo here, I will set, instead of wheat.svg here, I am going to set it to, in this href, I am going to go, I will add a parade and forward slash. It will go to the root, and in that, in the src folder, it will go to assets folder, and I will choose this logo.svg and save it. So you have the logo and the name changed. So with this, we have successfully completed our About section. So if I close this console window, if I refresh it, see, now you can see here, as soon as I click on this, see, the animations are happening and you have this section loading. And even when I click on About, see, this is loading. In the next class, we are going to work on the experience section.